Welcome into the Landon Tengwall Show, brought to you by Hoover. Thank you to Will Hoover and the entire Hoover crew for bringing you this video. As always, joined by Chris Buchanani, the fake host of the obligatory pregame show. How you doing, brother?
Oh, great, man.
You enjoying the search still?
I love it. I am so excited to talk about these coaching candidates.
I think we're all very excited. So, I mean, let's talk about, there has been, it feels like a lot of momentum has moved towards a lot of the fan base wanting Terry Smith to be the next head coach here at Penn State. And it was his Monday speech, right after Michigan State, leading into Nebraska.
Yep.
You felt a little bit, and you had more and more people saying it, but it was kind of a lot like, okay, Boomer, whatever you say. That's how a lot of, even me to a degree, that's how I felt. And then it was like we went into Nebraska, and you were at the game in your Matsui jersey.
Yes, sir.
One of one probably in the stadium.
I guarantee it.
And so, I mean, talk to me. What were the vibes in the stadium? What were the first time? I mean, the Terry chants, it felt like we're coming all day long. When did those first chants come about? Because I was down here, and obviously I do the live call-ins. And I mean, right away, I mean, when I started it post-game, it was like, hire Terry, hire Terry. We actually had Terry chants in the chat. So talk to me about what it was like in the stadium, though.
Yeah, it was a great environment. Again, for the Boomer fans like myself, even though I'm Gen X, we're going to be alive for several more decades. So I would like to still have a stake in the country, the town, the school. It was really cool to see Penn State, Nebraska. And it was cool that you had two Joe Pa Letterman on opposing sidelines, including a State High grad in Matt Rule, thus me repping both the Little Lions and the Nittany Lions with the Matsui jersey. And so Penn State gets the big fourth down stop early on. And of course, that's going to get the crowd into it and get them going. And then the offense just marches down the field and puts it in the end zone.
98 yards.
Yeah, just efficient, relentless after that big defensive stop. And it epitomized everything people have been loving, what they have seen out of the team since Terry took over. And I was telling people as I was going into the stadium, I was like, all right, at the right moment, man, I'm going to start the Terry chant. And I want you to follow suit. I didn't have to. That touchdown happened. And across the stadium from me, over on the east side, I'm hearing higher Terry. And that's the first time I heard it that night. And then the rest of the evening, it kept on breaking out before I could start it. I only got to join in that Terry. So it was authentic and organic, and it was real. And you do get a sense, like, vibes aren't everything, but they're not nothing either. And the energy in the building, which is a big part of what makes Penn State football what it is, was driving the momentum that's growing around Terry Smith as a serious candidate.
You know what? We're going to get into this. Let's just lay this out here, what we're going to do today. We got to mix it up because we understand it's a lot. There's so much content consumed about this guy might be it, and there's all this speculation. So
we got to be real with the folks. We are both sick of it all.
We're all sick, yes. The fatigue. I walked into the cheese shop to grab Booch to come over here and film, and I said, Booch, I'm tired. I'm just tired. Please, Pat Kraft, just hire a guy this weekend. I just want to move on and support whoever it is, and let's get going. But in the spirit of that, we figured we'll change it up a little bit. We had our producer put together a list of the Penn State head coaching search hierarchy, if you will. And we have about, I think it's about 8 guys, 10 guys. And Booch and I are going to draw a line where would we put Terry? Which guys would we hire over Terry, and which guys would we not hire over Terry? And we're going to kind of have a conversation from there and compare a lot of these candidates to Terry, as he seems to be, I would not say the favorite in terms of him necessarily being the guy, but the fan favorite at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we keep hearing he's an unrealistic choice. Well, things are impossible until they're not. And
money too.
When the money starts lining up in college football, all things are possible.
Booch, I'm going to put mine up on the screen.
Do it.
First right here. And right now, the 4 coaches that I would hire over Terry Smith are Freeman, DeBoer, Hartline, and Brent Key from Georgia Tech. I would take Terry over Drinkowitz, Chesney, Campbell, Fitzgerald, even our guy Bobby Ingram, who, yes, is interviewing tomorrow, by the way, as you watch this. Had to continue my, I'm not a big scoop guy, but got that one.
A good scoop.
We'll see what happens with that.
What is ass scoop? How about that?
What is what?
I don't know if it's a good scoop, but it's certainly a scoop.
It is one. I mean, how do you feel that? I definitely, I mean, because we, for a while there, it kind of seemed like recently it was Drinkowitz and it was Chesney as kind of, I don't want to say the remaining guys, the guys are always in the mix, but I would take Terry over those guys at this point.
Can we first just throw our producer directly under the wheels of the loop bus here so that we can maintain our credibility?
Please.
We do not seriously consider Marcus Freeman a candidate for this job. I mean, I just can't imagine it, right?
No.
Maybe if you believe in the mystery candidate, quote unquote, which I don't, but if you do, he's the only one who fits the description. But we got the list, and it was like, if Marcus Freeman wants to leave Notre Dame and come be the head coach of Penn State, would you take him over Terry Smith? When you look at his record of accomplishment, when you look at the way he has been pillaging our recruiting footprint and the results from the team since he got there, it would be hard to turn that down.
It absolutely would. I'm still, I put Heartline above the line just because I feel like that would still energize everybody. That would be, I think you'd classify that as a big hire. That wouldn't be an elite. I don't think it would necessarily be a home run, but I think that'd be a big time hire. I'm a key guy. That's an offensive lineman. I've always wanted an offensive line head coach. I think they think differently. I've loved what he's done. Seems like that is probably unlikely to happen, and he really likes where he's at. Here's my plea for putting Terry over Drinkowitz and Chesney. I think first off, what you have now, because of everything that occurred Saturday, and just the outpouring support for Terry, and not to mention too, like Terry has started to advocate for himself, and he literally said it in his presser. He's like, if no one else is going to speak up for me, who will? Like, it's got to be me. I love the way he's going about it. I think these are the biggest things. You're going to get, we know NIL outpouring support. You're going to get all of that. You're going to have full support from the fan base. Everybody's going to get behind him. We were over at the cheese shop. We got all these people coming in saying, that was the most excited I've been about Penn State football in a long, long time. And we were in the semifinals last year. And then here's the other piece of this, that Terry Smith's actually a damn good ball coach. Can we like, yes, I understand that we lost his first 3 games. Those were tough ones to start out with Terry, but our offense and defense both looked fairly incompetent for a while there, and Terry fixed those issues. He did it. The defense was simplified. He helped put in a package of the Prowler package that everybody knows, and if anybody played under Manny Diaz here, they already played in that. And he says, hey, it's simple. It's easy to mess with the offense's mind. This is what we're going to do on third down, all of that. And it has worked. I'm watching the tape, and I'm like, I'm actually having fun watching the tape. I was getting triggered calling Brandon Noble, who also watches the All-22, and I'm like, hey, what the hell is this right now? Why is no one fitting the B-gap 3 plays in a row? And that is no longer happening. The offense, I don't know if Terry Smith had to put Andy Kotelnicki in a chokehold to get him to do it finally, because it still took a while, but we actually started passing the ball down the field. And so my questions are, for the people that are still like, oh, you shouldn't have fired Franklin, at least Terry made changes that Franklin wasn't making for whatever reason he didn't make. Like, Terry has shown that he can be a ball coach. So for those 3 main reasons, that's why I'm starting to get in on Terry more and more. It's not like, I think some people are making this out to just be like a charity case, or it's just, has to do with the 409.
Oh, yeah, he wore a 409 pin, so now you want him. No, absolutely not. 2 points on he beat 2 teams that stink, and now all of a sudden you want him to be the head coach. Well, you know who else stinks? Nevada, Florida International, Villanova, no offense, guys, UCLA, and even Northwestern kind of stinks. Although I got David Braun, got credit. He's got those guys playing as hard as possible with the talent he's got. And we looked like crap in the non-conference, and we lost to UCLA without a coach. And as Noble would say, a little Dutch boy on the sideline calling the offensive plays. And we lost at home to Northwestern. And so, look, you beat who's on your schedule. And you talk about those first 3 games, and I feel like I have spoken ad nauseum about the degree of difficulty of the task set to Terry Smith. And yet, what have we not heard not once from Terry Smith? Excuses, complaints, a laundry list of things he could have had been well within his rights to point out about the situation in which he found himself. And you didn't hear it once. And just ask yourself, folks, if that was the other guy and he was in that situation, do you think it's possible you might have heard 1 or 2 excuses after the losses?
And not to mention, take a team that was down and out. I mean, after Northwestern, this team, if James Franklin was continuing to coach that team, we don't show up at Iowa how we did. I know we lost the game, but the effort, the fight that we've seen, I don't think we have that. I think it was done, guys. So his ability to pull everybody back in and say, hey, in a season where just about every single person besides Katron Allen, Zakee Wheatley, draft stock has dropped, in a season where all the hopes of what you thought was going to be a national championship season and this magical year has just been crushed. I mean, truly, we're talking one of the greatest collapses in college football history, and you're able to rally these guys. And because it's just not like, oh, you just beat two, bad teams. Like, they're playing with emotion, they're playing with effort, they're playing with intention, and it's just that says a lot to me. So that's
everything you just said, that's tangible evidence. We've got it right now. So let's put a pin in that, because I want to go back to this idea of known knowns with Terry Smith versus some of the other candidates. But before we do, let's just talk about Kalen DeBoer, because he's the other candidate we both have for sure up above Terry Smith. I think he's a long shot, but I don't think he's a crazy pie-in-the-sky dream like Marcus Freeman. I think, they lose the Iron Bowl or maybe he's just had it.
That's a tough fan base.
Look, the dude's from Sioux Falls, North Dakota, and all of a sudden you're down there in SEC country. I can completely understand somebody with his resume and his coaching ability looking around and saying, I understand, pinnacle of college football, but do I really want to spend the next 10 years of my life around these folks just doing this years in, year out? And you look around the landscape of college football, I'm not sure that Alabama is long-term going to have access to NIL resources that make them head and shoulders above other competitive programs. So yeah, it's a Tiffany brand. So let's just talk about DeBoer a little bit. To me, I look at it, a winner's win is something I always say, and 3 NAIA national championships, understand different level, but different level of talent at his disposal. Did you coach guys to play at the highest level at whatever level you were coaching at? And he did that 3 times. He's got experience from 2 different power conferences. Now, he's taken teams to the cusp of playoff contention or farther, as he did with Washington. He's an offensive guy who has had a record of quarterback development wherever he goes. And I think he could be a more natural culture fit in the Northeast than he maybe is in the Deep South.
Yeah, I think that's well put. I do think you have, someone that bounced a little bit around. And if you leave Washington and then you go to Alabama, which, as you said, is the pinnacle of college football. It doesn't get better than that if you're the head coach at Alabama. And it's like, all right, I'm going to jump ship again. Do you have any worry of him being quick to leave from here?
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern. 3 years, 2 programs he's left at the altar. If he were to come to Penn State, it'd be a big, big money contract. So till you add up his salary plus what he would command for his staff, you're probably talking like 20 plus mil per year invested into your coaching staff. And the one kind of hole in his resume, I guess, from Penn State's perspective, is that he does have a lack of recruiting experience in the Northeast, because he's been in the Dakotas, he's been out on the West Coast in the Pacific Northwest, and now he's down in the South. And again, you are going to be going head to head with James Franklin, along with, Notre Dame and Michigan and Ohio State, all of whom are pretty well established and know your recruiting footprint well. So there is that. You could offset that with staff hires. DeBoer looks pretty good. I struggled to find too many bad things to say about him, but that's something you want to be aware of.
Yeah, I think it's time to see the Bucanani list here.
Okay, so I put my line higher than yours. The only 2 names I had above right now where I'm like, you know what, just pull the trigger and hire Terry Smith if you can't get these guys. Marcus Freeman, who we're not getting, and Kalen DeBoer, who we're probably not getting.
That's it.
Yes, that's it.
No Heartline, no Key.
Yeah, so let's talk about them and why I would favor Terry over those guys. Because once I get past the dudes who have competed at a high level for a long time as head coaches at power programs, there's question marks around everybody. And when I look at all the things you just said about what we've seen from the way Terry has coached this team up, the results he has gotten out of them, by the way, again, adjusting on the fly And then I factor in all the other stuff about culture fit and the way he knows the program and how to get the most out of it, and his recruiting ties across Pennsylvania and throughout our recruiting footprint, his ability to retain staff and, more importantly, players, and go back to commits, and the money that might be willing to pour in support of him. Those are all things I know about Terry Smith.
And
So
you also know that he's probably less than half of the money you need to spend on DeBoer.
Yeah,
if you want to
absolutely.
compare him to someone. I mean, he's taken a very university-friendly deal, and then you can put more into the OC, you can put more into wherever you want, but you got a lot. I mean, just the money that would be available. Sorry.
No, it's a great point. And so I've got actionable data on Terry. I like Hartline a lot. He is somebody who I think could come here and be very successful. And I kind of like the idea of, if it's not Terry, especially if you don't retain him, then you are really looking at a hard reset, blank slate. And so I like the idea of a young, energetic guy who's trying to make his name coming in and growing with the rebrand of the program. And so Hartline has shown himself to be a great recruiter. He's developed the wide receiver position very well, which has been a real pain point for Penn State. You bring him from Ohio State, you hurt that program potentially substantially. And I like the idea that he could maybe bring some coaches and maybe some players and commits from Ohio State's orbit with him. But he's never been a head coach. He's never been outside of Ohio State, so he's no perspective on how other programs do it, which, to be fair, is pretty much a criticism you could make of Terry Smith as well. And there is the question with Brian Hartline. How much of it was Urban Meyer, Ryan Day, and just the power of the Ohio State brand? Like, if you would have put him at Wisconsin, is he recruiting Jeremiah Smith there? Probably not. So that puts him kind of neck and neck with Terry for me, and I just go with the known knowns.
How? I mean, I think it might be decided before then, but I mean, Terry has to win this weekend against Rutgers, right?
Oh, yeah, no question.
Yeah, have to.
You can't lose to Rutger and get the job.
Rutger.
You cannot do it.
I mean, I guess, so when it comes to Terry, and if you're Pat Kraft right now, you are dealing with a situation where I think just a week and a half ago, you were not in Pat Kraft's head. You probably weren't really taking that serious. You weren't.
No, not at all.
Taking that serious.
No, I think if I had to guess,
real.
Pat probably hates this situation in many ways.
Pat is in a nightmare right now because he has, a majority of the fan base, and from what, the research I've conducted from talking to people that are important, a lot of the real money wants Terry. And
well, let me tell you one of the great facts of life, Tengwall, and that's that often it is better to be lucky than be good. And sometimes you just got to be smart enough to accept your good fortune and roll with it. So whether he planned it this way or fell ass backwards into it, if he has the wisdom and the guts to lean into it, maybe it all works out, and then he can look back and say that was the plan all along.
It's going to take guts, because he is going to get killed in the national media.
Yeah, who cares?
If Pat, who cares? Yeah. When have we ever cared about the national media here at Penn State, I guess is the thought process. But
look, yes, it's a risk. Hiring your guy, Brent Key, who I love too. I mean, I love Brent Key at Georgia Tech. I think it's a cool story. I think Georgia Tech was a football wasteland, and an alum goes down there as an interim coach. He gets promoted, and he gets him to be competitive. And mostly he's the hot name because he engineered that turnaround. Because if you look at his coaching resume, and again, we're talking about known knowns and how, where have you been and what can you do? Who's going to come with you? That's a little thin. It's a little thin. His teams play tough, and he did have 3 years. I will say the one good point about his resume, he spent 3 years in Tuscaloosa with Nick Saban on staff. So I do like bringing that perspective. But man, limited head coaching experience. We haven't seen him do it without Haynes King either, who is one of my favorite players in college football. So can you do it? And he spent, and this is really important to me, I keep coming back and hammering culture fit, his entire career. He might have had 1 year at Western Michigan, I think. But so for all intents and purposes, his entire career has been in the South. So that's where his knowledge base is. He's an Alabama native who went to Georgia Tech, coached in Florida, coached in the South. I don't know that he is in any way, shape, or form the solid hire that he's maybe made out to be. I think he's in the best spot for him right now.
I'd agree. I think he knows that too. I think he's well aware of that. So Yeah, I mean, it seems like Terry he just feels like the right fit right now. And I don't think, like, I'm subtracting. I have, as we've gotten further and further away from Saturday and the emotional night that was, like, I'm subtracting feeling. I'm trying to actually talk about, as we said, the intangible things that we can actually look at. And Terry does continue to make more and more sense. Now, if you're Pat Kraft, are you going to these donors that have a lot of money, and are you saying, all right, what's your pledge? If I hire Terry Smith, are you pledging $5 million right off the bat?
You're damn right I am. For two reasons. Number one, if you recognize this is an opportunity to bring money in the door, of course you got to capitalize on it. It's the lifeblood of the sport, especially right now. But also, and to me, very importantly, if you're Pat Kraft and you're sticking your neck out on this one, you want to get other people with skin in the game. You want people who are invested, literally, in taking that course of action. And not for nothing, you want to have other people you can kind of deflect and point the blame to if it doesn't work out. You can say, well, this guy gave us $5 million. What'd you want me to do? Say no?
Exactly. Well, so the one guy we haven't really talked about that seems to be very much in the mix right now is Chesney.
Yeah.
And here's something that I think is starting to become tough with the emergence of Terry Smith as a big time candidate. Is I'm coming in, I don't want to be the guy that takes away Terry from the fan base, and I'm automatically already disliked because I'm the guy that kept them from getting their Terry Smith.
Especially because this is his break. I am sure he has been working his way up the ladder with the idea that he can eventually earn an opportunity at a Power 4 program. And the one concern I think that anybody looking at this job from the outside should have is what's going to be the situation with the roster? How confident am I that I'm going to be able to field a competitive team, even with what many people are calling a favorable schedule for 2026? And so if you're thinking, man, if I can't retain this guy and a bunch of players follow him out the door and everybody's mad at me because they were chanting Terry Smith's name and I'm this nobody from Holy Cross and JMU who Pat picked over their guy, is this really the way I want to start out my shot at the Power 4? I think it complicates the Chesney situation for sure. That said, I like the dude. He's a Pennsylvania native. I think there's a lot to recommend him. And whoever it is, if he steps to that podium as Pat's guy, I'm all in on supporting him. But I think it's fair to point out that the situation is more complicated now than it was before Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't envy Pat Kraft at all right now. It's in a tough situation.
I do because in fact, I envy him tremendously because
why's that?
The opportunity to make the best choice and by extension, just become an absolute legend at this institution and in his profession just dropped into his lap. It's very easy, Pat. As easy as claiming the 1994 national championship, which you should do immediately.
There you have it from Chris Buchanani. I appreciate you joining me for this conversation today, Booch. I think we are both Terry guys. And once again, I say that with, yes, I do have skin in the game. I love Terry. I'm a Letterman. So as you know, all the Letterman clearly, Mike Robin, you see it from everybody, wants Terry to be the guy. But as we start to dissect it and have our cheese shop conversations here, it just starts to make more and more sense. And I'm sure we'll still have the people, if you only won 2 bad games and everybody's emotional, you can continue to say that. But it seems like it's the right move for Penn State.
He's going to get killed in the national press. Who cares? It's like Jimbo Fisher, Brian Kelly, Scott Frost, Lincoln Riley. How many times have we been told that we need to just be down on our hands and knees, genuflecting against these brilliant athletic directors who have made these amazing hires. And then 3 years later, the fan base wants to run them out of town. And you're reading about how many tens of millions of dollars they're paying for those guys to not coach their teams. I could not care less what anybody in the national press says in February about our hire. Because the other thing to remember is this thing starts going well, everybody will be talking about how they knew all along that it was a great hire and what a genius Pat Kraft is, and they'll pretend they never said a bad word about him. And if you don't believe me, look at the 180-degree shift on James Franklin that turned on a dime the minute that dude got fired. It was only 10 years of big game James ridicule to, Oh, can you believe Penn State fired this guy who took his team to the Final Four of the playoffs, even though 6 months ago it was like, oh my God, SMU, Boise State, give me a break. Who cares? Don't listen to morons.
There you have it from Chris Buchanani. Turn off Twitter.
Except us.
Except us. Turn off Twitter. Turn off Facebook. Definitely turn off the message boards. And we will hopefully find out within the next week who is actually going to be coaching Penn State in 2026.
Either that or it'll be 2 more weeks of these videos, so strap in for that.
Oh, please, God, no. Please, keep tuning in. But
Happy Thanksgiving.
the Lord help us. Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.